Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Remixing the News. My name is Ben, and I'm going to do something I've been meaning to do for a while. This will, I believe, have things and information people will want to know or have clarified. However, it won't be short because it's very difficult to put a lot of information into short YouTube videos, so I'll do my best to kind of unpack wokeism, why it's failing, how it's failing, and what the dangerous parts are, where it came from, and what we now have today in this kind of this mess, which was categorized perfectly by the Washington protests and the Olympics. Misappropriation of the Last Supper was quite real, and revolutionary statue on there as well to show they're on the bridge of a revolution, can't win. So woke, initially it was said by a jazz player in the 30s, late 30s. It didn't really get used by that. People will have you believe that black people have been using the word stay woke for years. No, they used it a bit then, and then it was picked up in an academic study in the 70s. But it was never part of culture until it was brought into wokeism, brought into culture by the World Health Organization 19 years ago. But it sowed the seeds on foreign money of how our children be educated. It was all based around teaching them what to think, not how to think, what to think, what to accept, what not to accept, who did the bad thing, who in history, we're an age of empire. And without the empires of this world, we would be way back in the Bronze Age. But people want to forget all that and come up with ridiculous things like white supremacy, white fragility. I mean, of course, we came from Africa. Those of us who have a different pigmentation is directly correlated to our distance from the equator. So our skin colour doesn't come into privilege. And the fact that we should think about the privilege that people have endured in the past for having white skin in a white-skinned country is absurd. Now we're in a position, certainly in England, Europe, and the US, where everyone does have equal rights. But equity, DEI, at the hub of it all, this is the thought police part of it. No, some people need more than equal rights, so everyone achieves the same victory at the same time. It doesn't work like that. The people who work harder get more out of things. That's how it should be, because you can only get meaning from what you work for. You can't get meaning from things you're given. And this whole thing came up, and billions donated to our higher learning educational systems. There was money donated to our K through 12 in America, or your grades up to 11 in England. And stuff was being taught to 5-year-olds. It still is in parts of America, but they have to ban it state by state. That is actually graphic sexualized porn. One has a man and a man of colour, and one's giving the other blowjob. I have to say it. The guy got almost expelled for saying it in front of the school board until he pointed out he just checked it out of their own library. So it's a mess. They've been taught that society's broken. They need to fix it. The reason it's broken is look at all the horrors of the past. And look at from the point of view of the people who suffered those horrors. Now, if everybody always did that, we'd still be looking back in the past about 3,000 years ago. But we have to move forward, and we move forward into different ages. And the age of enlightenment. I'm sorry, we have moved past slavery. I don't want to get into a reparations argument. That's not my interest. But we've moved past it. Black Americans have it better than white Americans in large parts of America for many reasons, and especially in college admissions. So you can't say they don't. At the moment, it's all about race and white privilege, white implicit or conscious racism, or implicit racism. Whiteness is evil. Whiteness invented slavery. Slavery is older than language. Slavery, prostitution, and weaponry predate Mesopotamian Empire, where they created language. There's always been slaves. There are 50 million slaves worldwide today, so it shouldn't be an argument about dredging up slaves from the past if you're not going to consider the ones that are alive, 50 million today, as we speak, at the end of July 2024. And the whole DEI system requires everyone to be leveled out, which means that when you're looking for someone for your team, you'll be told by the DEI department that you need a Hispanic woman, ideally, and they might give you an option, or a Hispanic man might wash. But they're constantly there to balance out the representation sheets. And by that, they are the thought police. If there wasn't any racism or inequality in an organisation, they would have no job to do. Their job is to sow that inequality, imply it, get people to step up. Plenty of people have been sacked in DEI meetings for nothing, just by falling for their little tricks. It really is the thought police, and equity means everyone gets the same. Sounds great. We're going to have complete equitable distribution of wealth and property. And that only works because personal values are yours when you attach your values to a group. Eventually, if you've got DEI problems, is at the hub of communism, right, the hub of Marxism, wokeism, then who's in charge of enforcing those rules? Because then they've elevated themselves to a leader within the group. And you'll find over a very short period of time, leaders will emerge and emerge and emerge. And so eventually, you get from equal distribution of everything to we get loads, you get what you get, and you shut the hell up about it. That is the journey from wokeism or Marxism to socialism and to communism, and it does not take long. It takes a couple of years at most to get to that stage where you're being run by totalitarian dictatorship. And that's what they've been taught to aspire to. They've been taught to read some controversial revolutionary thinking. They've been taught history incorrectly. There have been some big omissions from their history since they haven't got any national pride because they don't believe there's a reason for it. And that's because they haven't been taught there's a reason for it. Well, there bloody well is a reason for it. England has never been invaded. Only defeated in battle and retreated to America because that was an inevitable consequence anyway. It was too far away to fight a war. So we've all also been enslaved. Every part of Europe and America at some point would have been enslaved and under occupation of hostile people. That's history. You can't not look at history. You can't pretend it didn't happen, and you can't view it just through the lens of who got hurt and who hurt them, and they're the people I'm going to hate. Because that's a stupid way to look at anything, isn't it? I'm going to find the people I need to hate and start hating them. Why not look at history and go, there's a whole load of achievements, and thank God we actually live in a world where there are achievements still possible, and a whole load of innovation. I mean, they live their world on social media. Where's their gratitude for the people who invented it? The gratitude for people like Elon Musk, who they think is against them because he doesn't want prepubescent young girls getting puberty blockers. It will change their body, make them entirely dysfunctional sexually and infertile, although they don't tell them that until afterwards. Quite often, double mastectomy. Stop someone going through puberty is child butchery. The WPATH leaked files on environmentalsuccess.org with Michael Schellenberger. You can see all the leaked files. The people, WPATH, World Professional Association of Transgender Health, misled every gender clinic in the Western world. They were not qualified to have their views, and when you watch the video, I think there's 2 videos, and there's about 120 in text, they were experimenting on children, and the success rate of trans surgery was 1 in 2. Now, we only accept a minimum of 1 in 14 babies for a surgery that needs to happen. So 1 in 2 for an elective surgery is absurd. They say they guilt trip the parents, say if you don't do this, they will kill themselves. No, they won't. They're much less likely to. Given natural recourse, no pressure at school, then anything like that through therapy, 85% of the people who actually have gender dysphoria come out in the same sex, and mostly actually do go into same-sex relationship. That data was true until the outburst in 2019. And just because if you're experimenting or changing your mind, you don't need to announce it publicly. You don't need to make it so everyone else has to deal with your names and the ideas that you have. If anyone can name me a good thing that's come from wokeism, I can't ever. I can't. CRT, we taught critical race theory to children. So we taught them about who was racist towards others, about the slavery model, and about racism in America by the police to black people. In England, we had to copy the whole syllabus because we don't have the racist problems they do, but we still wanted to instill the hatred and race hatred in our children. So we had to borrow the exact American model with the same example of police brutality. All the videos are the same. It's insane and absurd to consider life through if you consider life through the lens of an oppressed, racially divided, gender divided, sexually divided, hateful looking eye, and you believe everyone else thinks the same, then you get intersexual victimhood coming out where everyone just stands together as a protester because they really were protesting the whole situation about life and the fact they don't want to live in it. But honestly, DEI is at the cusp. CRT is horrible, teaches white privilege, unconscious bias. Do me a favour, before I retired, I was a very good psychologist. I worked with people with PTSD, and I was a master of subconscious, still am. And I don't have a subconscious racist thing in me, nor could I implicitly be racist. It's absurd. It's moronic to say it's true. If you knew my life, you wouldn't say that because I'm 41. I'm going to die before I'm 50, and that's directly because of me helping other people. And I've lived abroad for quite a large part of my life helping people. So I don't like to get lectured on how the world is, especially when they're always wrong. The climate change people are wrong completely. Michael Schellenberger does a 30-minute climate, and he is an expert in climate change, about how we're actually doing way better than expected if we carry on the same trajectory with technological advancements taken into account. We're well ahead of the curve, and it's a really positive climate message. But they won't pick it up. The radicals won't pick it up. They can't run Just Stop Oil when they've got a coherent expert saying, no, we need oil. And we don't need coal. That's why we needed oil. We need oil to keep oil, and then we keep making nuclear safer because it's going to be a lot cheaper than the other ones. Sorry about that, but that's how life is. You can't have, just because you want enough solar, wind, and water power, or whatever, doesn't mean you can conjure it up from the god of the oceans or the god in the sky. So, and hedonism seems to be the word of the day. And I would say that's become a tendril of the woke mind virus. It's this display of, like Sam Smith just going on a devil's outfit and lunging and sticking his tongue out. It's vulgar. And why do you need to make things vulgar? And the Olympics was insane. That just happened. I mean, you got the Washington protest where they were just pro-Hamas, spray painting it all over Washington and attacking the police. And then just a couple of days later, you get the start of the bloody Olympics. And it was woke and it was trans horrible. They misappropriated the Last Supper by Da Vinci and turned it into a trans exhibition. And on that exhibition were revolutionaries to show that that's what they think. They basically said, we don't care anything about your past and we're revolutionaries. But the thing is, they're all petrol victims, so they'll always be scared. So they can't be revolutionaries because it does involve physical action. I'm willing to stand in their way if I need to. So the other aspects that you're going to see is just this. There are, when they come up against no, and they're not used to being told no, and they're not used to being off social media, when they come into real life yes or no situations and they get rebutted, they have what's called a cluster B personality type. So they either go into hysterics when they start calling you racist, sexist, feminist. Feminist. No one's ever called me that. But racist, sexist, transphobic, which is bad use of phobia. It means irrational fear of. I'm not irrationally or in any way fear of a trans person, nor an Islamic person. An Islamist would be a rational fear of Islam because that's a radical Islamic person. They may do something right. That's a rational fear. It's not a phobia. But neither work as phobias, I'm afraid. But these kids have been indoctrinated, and some of them so badly. They really, like so many people, wanted Donald Trump to be dead after his assassination. They haven't even seen his good side. And the man's got children and grandchildren galore. Have a heart. Honestly, the way the left-wing media Kamala Harris is as woke as they get. She just set up all the no crime problems in California, and it ruined the state completely. She came in as a border czar, let everybody in, did nothing about anything. She came in, she's basically been a failure in every job she's had. She's luckily got promoted. So she's going to be the woke queen, and that's why I really feel this video needs to come out now, because These kids that are indoctrinated, they can be brought back, but not by using their preferred pronouns. You have to stop there. You can't affirm their disreality. Because they're about 5 clicks or 10 clicks away from us in reality. They need to click back forward, if you look at it like that. Small clicks. So you can't, so you can use pet names if they're your children, you use baby, darling, whatever you use for them, but you never use the they, them, or zip, zop, or whatever it is. You just never affirm that. But you always show love and tender, and you just divert using those affirming things. And it takes time, and you really need to consult with somebody who knows how to do it, and they'll give you a bigger profile. I'll do one this week, if not latest early next week, about the principles of it. But it does change child to child, so it's worth having it looked at. As mine is advice overall. Get an individual opinion about your child. But honestly, they're now coming into the workplace and they're being seen as the laziest generation ever. They think about, so something Mondays. Anyway, this thing with the days of the week, like workplace Wednesday, free on Friday, just weird things. They've got bad policies at work. They are lazy. They believe they get to take mental health days, which they take a lot of. They turn up to work late with no apology quite often. They turn up and they don't work the full shift. They're not flexible about taking over other people's shifts. They don't fit in, and they end up feeling outside because they're not willing to bend. Their whole identity, and that's the thing with anyone who's really radically woke, their whole identity is fixed around their brand, who they want the world to perceive them as. That's the same as the Democrats Party, who they want the world to perceive them as. As soon as you put your brand ahead of your integrity, you're in trouble, son. Honestly, integrity is what you keep. You don't brand yourself. I'm Ben Wilson Smith. I've always remained Ben Wilson Smith. I've done things in my life. Some things were good. Some things were not good. I've branded myself. I've actually suffered actual serious, failures. I've been harmed severely in a foreign country by some serious sadism in a way that most men can only imagine. And I survived it. And it was because of my skin colour. So don't tell me I have white privilege or I don't know what I'm talking about. I've been around the world fixing problems. But unfortunately, they tried to kill me with metal poles. So it's a declining condition. I've only got a few years left. So I really want to put more into my writing. But I do want to say there is no part of this woke that system is okay. Cancel culture is kind of done, but it's still an evil thing to do. And there is a lot of evil in what the woke are doing. We're so tolerant, we're so open and tolerant, as long as you're one of us. That's kind of like every bad movement in history. We're really flexible and tolerant with you as long as you're one of us. If you're not one of us, we have no tolerance whatsoever. No religious tolerance, no personal tolerance, no opinion tolerance. We will not have our opinions discussed or affronted. How dare you? We are right. We've known that since our teacher told us that. Pretty much. Add in an extra bit of Islamist propaganda. They'll watch the Hamas news and assume it's correct, because why would a terrorist organisation not even consider lying on their own news when they can easily get better publicity and more people protesting? That would be the logical thing to do. So we have so many elements to this, but essentially, although woke is now an insult, really, so they've gone woke or companies gone woke, you don't like it. Because conservatives are pushing back, because the middle class, the lower class, every class barrier you're hitting, and you're hitting at the people who don't have any progressive views, and that's most of us. Like 85% or more of us really aren't that way. I hope it's still that percentage. So that's where we go. No, sorry, no. Everything was fine with LGBT. Everyone had their rights. They worked hard for them. Congratulations, well earned. No problem with that. I have many gay friends, and I do have a trans friend. But that was someone who had to work for their rights and have it done to them for them as an adult, and they're happy about it. The highest suicide rate for transgender dysphoria, which, by the way, I think you can say since 2019 has kind of been installed by our education system rather than occur naturally. But gender dysphoria can lead to obviously serious problems. But the actual gender can't be more than one or two. You can't, there's no old school transvestite things that, and unfortunately, they get more transphobia or whatever word you appropriate, because that isn't appropriate. But the sort of people who are not scared of them, but just not comfortable around them, and that's because of the drive of this new radical group of people who are trans, but they don't want to make decisions about their genitals or surgery, mostly. And I feel for the small part that are really suffering with gender dysphoria, they need to exercise out of the group and get help with their family first. Any type of government that suggests that they should have as much rights as schools should have as much rights, or anywhere near as much right over a child as a parent, is a socialist government. Okay, that is where it stops. When there's if it's 50-50, it becomes a socialist government. And they're trying that. They've done it in Canada, and they'll try it in America, and they'll try it in England. And parental rights will be on the line. And children need to be re-educated, but that might not work. We may not, as a world, it's going to hell. We may not have time. So, we've looked like a woke joke to our enemies for 4 years. Of course, they've been mounting up around us. It's a disgrace. But these kids, the ones who got through it, they're okay. I still think they might not be okay. I think it's worth pursuing always pursuing better relationships with kids anyway. But just, ensuring, because they had to sit through the same indoctrination. Something about them was strong enough not to feel that way, but they still had to sit through it all. So it would have changed them a bit, I think. But it's the radicals that were the problem, and we can't do anything but to say no. And we have to put up a bit more force. We haven't done anything about all of their illegal activities yet. Everybody from January the 6th, the 85 people who turned up on Armistice Day in England, they've all arrested within minutes and actually given and charged. Islamist protesters are still waiting for arrests to really happen. Islamic immigrants in America, murderers. One guy skipped the country and got in 21, out in 21, deported. In 22, out in 22, deported. Same in 23, in and out, deported. 24, he gets in illegally, no one spots him, and 2 weeks later, a 12-year-old girl was strangled, brutally to death. To the extent they don't release the crime photos to anyone who doesn't have to see them, because apparently it's that bad. So that's what woke brings you. And there is a way back, but it does mean that people need to start standing up. It can't just be, there are lots more people doing it, and it's good to see, because there's only 6 or 7 of us who are prepared to say these things. But we do need sort of the first point of dealing with a problem is acknowledging that there is one. Acknowledging that our governments have been lying to us, acknowledging that our educational standards that we thought we were being held to weren't being held to, and that our children were exposed to things they really shouldn't have been. Their brains were too young to be exposed to them at that time and put them into context, so they store it in their adult box with no context and release it when they become adults, and it sends them mad. So this is really not a good way to look through a lens of wokeism at the world and look at it as being progressive and good for the people. This is an evil, twisted, Marxist revolution of losers who won't make a revolution because of that fact. Possibly the way they were taught really badly and taught hate. There's so much hatred and no value, and that's the thing that they need. Common sense, manners, respect, dignity, decency, bravery, compassion, empathy, sympathy, love, friendship. There's so many values that they don't seem to get in the same way that we used to get them, and I think it's very sad. So please do join with me about this and actually just make some action. See what's going on in your community. See what's going on around you where you might be able to make a change, have your voice heard. It doesn't have to be much. Not everyone can commit as much time, but the more people who commit a small amount of time, the much more gets done. It really does. So it's a pay it forward type thing. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I've kept it under 30 minutes, which was my goal, so I'm proud of myself about that. Please do, if you did get this far, subscribe, like, and click the notification bell, because that was a long one, but it was enjoyable. It was good to get out. Always a pleasure and never a chore. So you be good. I'll try and be lucky. I'll see you soon.